Okay, this is a video of me on a random Thursday morning walking on the beach in my Portuguese town. I'm not on vacation, I live here, and this did not happen by accident. I think a lot of you who are thinking about moving abroad are circling with your research and are quite stuck. And this is a video to give you some perspective about how to get unstuck and start moving forward. So today we're talking about 5 things that could have kept me and my family stuck in the US. We have lived abroad since 2019 and I did it with 5 kids. So, welcome, listen up. I would love to help you get unstuck. First thing that could have kept us stuck is if we waited until everything felt organized and safe and clear. One of the most meaningful quotes to me in my life is the Helen Keller quote, "Life is a daring adventure or nothing." And that is what my handle, which is all over my social media, is based on. But there is another part to that quote that you may not have heard before, and it is this. I'm going to read it to you. Life is either a daring adventure or nothing. Security does not exist in nature, nor do the children of men as a whole experience it. Avoiding danger is no safer in the long run than exposure. And I think this is a big misconception. We think that we have security and safety, and we think that that's guaranteed, and then if we make a big change in our life, that feels insecure, that feels unstable. But I think that what we're all seeing right now, based on what's going on in America, is that security is not guaranteed. Stability is not guaranteed. Even if you feel like my dog in the background. Even if you feel like your job is secure, you feel like your country is secure. I mean, I think a lot of people are caught off guard because things feel extremely unstable. People are beginning, I should say, white people are beginning to really realize, oh, things are not as stable as I thought they were. And the things that I thought I could count on, I cannot count on anymore. Political instability in America didn't create unpredictability, it just revealed it. Life is deeply unpredictable. We think that we can see the future, we think that we have security in the future and that we know what the plan is, but life doesn't tend to be that way. And that's why I love that Helen Keller quote, because I think that a lot of us spend our lives pursuing safety when we cannot guarantee safety. And a lot of this for me comes from having 2 friends who died in their 40s of cancer. We cannot predict the future, and that feels hard. It feels unsafe. But choosing a path that is unpredictable, like a move abroad, isn't actually, in reality, that much more unpredictable than your life in America right now. So if I had let the fear of not feeling safe and the fear of the unknown be my guiding principle, I never would have left. I never would have ended up here in Portugal living at the beach. I want to encourage you about something. You are not going to feel like a move abroad is safe or predictable, and you're not going to have certainty about a lot of things. Certainty is an illusion for one thing, but obviously we all like to have some degree of certainty. And the thing is, unless you start taking steps, like actual tangible steps, you're not going to come to a place of clarity or certainty. So I want you to think about this like your destination, your life abroad that you're dreaming of. It's like taking a really long hike to a beautiful viewpoint. At the very beginning of the hike, if you want to see the beautiful viewpoint, you have to like literally just start taking steps, and you can't see the viewpoint from the beginning of a long hike. You have to move to get clarity, to keep seeing the path, to eventually get to the viewpoint. But you can't see the viewpoint right now. You will not see the viewpoint unless you keep moving forward. And that means taking actual tangible steps toward your goal of moving abroad. I'm just going to take a brief moment to invite you, if you want somebody to help you take those tangible steps, because you're stuck in an endless research loop and you want to know what's actually viable for your life, for your family, when it comes to moving to Europe. Book your Get Me Out of Here plan. It is in my description, and that's where you can map out your move. You won't know everything, but you will know the steps that you need to be taking over the next few months in order to get yourself to Europe. So if you have decided that you're going to go, but you need help getting there, that's what the Get Me Out of Here plan is for. Now, thing number 2, thing 1 and thing 2. Okay, point number 2 that could have kept us from actually launching abroad, and that could have kept me from living in Portugal at this time. This is a big one. Believing that we weren't the kind of people who could do this. That was a real temptation for me because I have 5 kids. My husband and I have a lot on our plates. A couple of our kids have developmental disabilities and will be living with us for the long term. And just the sheer number in our family made moving abroad daunting, to be honest. In addition, our original plan of having my husband get a transfer with his company totally came crashing down. We thought that we were going to be transferred with his company, and then that didn't work out. But we already, at the time that it didn't work out, due to long stories that I have shared about in different videos, like this one. I have ADHD, friends, so sometimes when I'm trying to remember details about having these videos, first of all, comment if any of you have ADHD or you like think you might have ADHD. I didn't become convinced until perimenopause, but it's definitely a thing that I just was able to manage for many, many years. Anyway, so sometimes I am thinking so hard in these videos that I do something like point for linking you to a video that I'm talking about, and then I completely get distracted and I forget what I was saying. So bear with me. This is real life. So essentially, because we were a family that was really complicated, to be honest, I mean, with 5 kids and with disabilities, and there's a lot of neurodivergence in our family, there was so much that made me believe that we could never achieve this. There's no possible way. We didn't have the ability to get passports through Ancestry, things like that. And so we really believed for a while, this is not going to happen, especially after things came crashing down and we were not able to do the job transfer with the company. Like, that was the only way forward in my mind in some ways, until that got taken off the table. And by then I was so invested in the plan to move abroad that we pivoted and we made a different plan. And that's what that other video is about, is all of our pivots. But I think believing that there are things in your life that prevent you specifically from going, I think that really gets in a lot of people's way. There are people of all sorts who move abroad. I mean, my family is gigantic. We have medical needs and neurodivergent needs. Okay, so there's that. I hear a lot from my audience that they can't move because they don't want to leave their mom, or, something about taking care of the older generation. And I just spoke with someone the other day. I actually know multiple people here in Portugal who brought their parents, and their parents came and lived with them here. There are ways to move abroad with your parent. There are ways to move abroad when you have all manner of challenging situations. So the question is really, do you believe that you're able to figure it out? Are you committed to doing the work to research and investigate instead of just automatically saying, this is never going to happen for us? Instead, you need to be asking, how can this happen for us? Given our circumstances, given our family makeup, given our medical needs, how can we make this happen? So if you're truly committed, and I was, we figured out a way because we were asking, how can I make this happen, instead of, can I make this happen? The things that you're thinking that you can't do it. And I want to challenge you that, well, some of those may be accurate. There are many, many people who could figure out a way if they wanted to. We didn't have a bunch of money. We didn't have investment properties. We didn't have a trust fund. We didn't even have an international job transfer. We built our own way forward. I became a virtual assistant so that I had remote income. My husband pivoted to consulting so that we had more remote income. We very strategically chose countries where our US dollar would go farther. So we chose lower cost countries with the exchange rate. We also did a stint of house sitting as a family of 7. God bless the people who let us house sit for 4 months in Nova Scotia. So there are creative ways, but you really do have to do the mental switch of, how can I make this happen? Not, this is not for me. People like me can't do this. Here's all the reasons why I can't do this. Like, this is a really important paradigm shift for you. We wouldn't have made this happen if we had been committed to staying on the upwardly mobile track. So what I mean by that was, when we were in America, we were totally on the treadmill of make more money, spend more money, nicer car, nicer house, cuter clothes, more expensive, whatever. We were on the upwardly mobile track, and we realized it was not in line with our values. And so we pulled the plug. We got off that track. For us, seeing clearly the brevity of life and how fragile and how unpredictable life is was a really big part of that for us. We had several friends with cancer diagnoses. I mentioned that I've lost 2 friends to cancer. That wasn't at that point yet. We had friends lose children really tragically, unexpectedly. And all of those things really brought into focus for us, is this what we want to be doing? Do we want to be on this upwardly mobile track? Or is it actually in line with our values? And it was not in line with our values. And I mention this right now because I think a lot of people are questioning a lot of things because of the political zombie apocalypse that is happening in America. And the reason that I think that this connects to that is because this could also be an opportunity for you, a clarifying opportunity. So for us, what pushed us into pursuing a life abroad was this clarifying moment of seeing tragedy, really, and difficulty and brevity of life stuff, and asking ourselves, are we living in the way that we want to be living? And so you have a really wonderful opportunity. I know it doesn't seem wonderful. It's really awful. Just like the losses that we were seeing were awful. We didn't want that for anybody. It did, however, bring into question, like, what am I doing with my good health? What am I doing with my life? My future, like, none of this is guaranteed. The future is not guaranteed. So loss is clarifying, and what happens during times of loss or just grief, I think a lot of Americans are experiencing grief on a national level right now. Those times can be really clarifying, and that was certainly true for us. Being close to people who experienced great loss was really clarifying for us. And so I would encourage you to let this time in history be a clarifying time for you, where you start to ask yourself some of the hard questions about how you're living, what you want, and especially if you know already that you want to live abroad, let this time and the unpredictability of what's been going on, let that spur you on. I have a quote from my best friend Gretchen. I'll talk about her pretty regularly on this channel. She passed away a few years ago from cancer. And I really love this quote because I think it explains really clearly what I'm talking about here. Sorrow does a lot for you, clarifies and sharpens your senses. In a life that doesn't have struggle, it can dull your senses. In so many ways, we aren't awake to what really matters. Feeling is holy and sorrow brings clarity. Don't ignore it or numb the feelings. And that was a quote from my friend Gretchen. Witnessing sorrow firsthand and experiencing sorrow at losses in our own lives really clarified for us that we wanted to move abroad. It was a long time dream of mine, but we were on that upwardly mobile track and we weren't pursuing that long-term dream until something woke us up. And so let this time in history, especially if you are somebody who has wanted to live abroad, even for a while with your family, to experience that, to make those memories internationally together. If that's something that's always been a desire of yours, let this time in history prod you on. That actually brings us to point number 4 of what could have kept me from living in this lovely, wonderful place and pursuing this dream of living abroad. And that would have been dismissing the nudge. Whatever it is that is nudging you, especially if it's something that you've had on your heart and in your mind for a long time, if political zombie apocalypse is what is nudging you, let it. Let it nudge you out of America. Let it nudge you to follow this long-term dream that you've had. I let the reality of the brevity of life nudge me into really reevaluating what mattered and then acting on it. And so let this time in history nudge you out the door. Sometimes fear is what starts the conversation and is what feels like the bigger motivator. Something I'm always going to be saying on this channel is hold your fear in one hand. I have a lot of real fears about living in America, especially with a multiracial family. But also hold your hope in the other hand. And you need to give attention to the hope piece. It is really important that you let the fear piece clarify, the fear, the sorrow, the hard stuff, clarify things for you so that you can look at the hope piece and then you can put your eggs in the hope basket. So I really want to encourage you to let this time clarify by reminding you, what are your values? What do you want? When you, Lord willing, live to be 85 and you look back on your life, What do you want to have done? It is really easy to make excuses. It is really easy to stay in the research loop. Let me help you get out of the research loop. Look in the description. It is really easy to stay there, and yet that's just really setting yourself up for regret long term. And so, again, whatever it is that's nudging you, that's okay. It's okay if it's fear that's nudging you, or it's like not being able to see a future in America for you and your family. If that's nudging you, that's fine. But then get really real with like, what are our values? What are our hopes here? If I hadn't let the sorrowful things nudge me, I would not be sitting here. So let them nudge you, and then do the work to understand what you actually want, not just what you don't want. The last thing that I could have done that would have prevented me from having this life abroad is thinking, oh, we'll do it someday. And I've alluded to this all throughout this video, but someday is not promised. What are you doing with the time that you have? What are you doing with your time? Someday is not something that you can bank on. Experiencing things with your kids, making memories with your kids, following the things that you actually care about, leaning into the things that you value. If you have wanted always to live abroad, go. Go. Figure out a way to go. Ask yourself, how can we make this happen? Again, I have two friends who died in their 40s. Both of them would have loved to have lived abroad, but life did not allow them. There will be circumstances that truly disallow you from following a dream. For example, needing to live near a cancer center. But there are a million other things that really don't have to be keeping you from pursuing your desire to live abroad, but you think that they do. There will always be unpredictable variables in life, and there will always be things that you can use as an excuse. There will always be more things to research. And I think I see a lot of people stuck in that research cycle while simultaneously saying things to me like, I'm afraid that I'm not going to be able to leave in time. I'm afraid it's going to be too late. Endless research loops are just another way of having that someday mentality. Someday, I guess maybe we can make this happen. If you want to do it, do it. Start making steps on the trail to the beautiful view. Start making tangible steps. Stop trusting in someday, because someday is not promised to you. Someday is not promised to me. And that is why I'm very glad that I pursued this dream to live abroad. I'm really grateful that in pursuing a dream, now with everything that's going on in America, I don't have to live there. So the takeaway is this: we don't wait for the world to calm down. We don't wait to make a life that's in alignment with your values until some unspecified date in the future. You begin building a life that is in alignment with your values today by making decisions today, by taking action today. That's how you get where you want to go. Researching, yes, you can research a lot, but taking steps toward the life that you want and that matches your values takes tangible action, and not just putting it off into some unknown future that will never come. So people think that the hard part is the visas or the remote income. All of those are challenges, yes, but what the real challenge is changing your mindset to believing that it's possible for you and your family, looking for opportunities of how that can happen, creating your own opportunities, for how that can happen, like I did with the virtual assistant job. The hard part is really changing the question, how can I do this? It's deciding that you're going to stop listing all the reasons why you don't think it will work and begin trying to figure out how it will work. There are more choices available to you than you're currently seeing, but you do have to immerse yourself in this topic. You do have to listen to people who've done it, and you have to look for the way forward instead of the way to keep staying stuck. So if this resonated with you, if you feel like you needed this nudge from me, I really encourage you to subscribe. I talk about stuff like this all the time. I would love to keep encouraging you to move forward with your desires instead of circling the research forever and ever. There is more possible than you are imagining right now. So go look for it.